Hey, this is Mark with One More Cast Pro Guide Service. I wanted to do a video today on how I do the drop shot a little bit differently than most people do. You know, I know a lot of people, it's very versatile. A lot of people use it for vertical, which is great. A lot of people use it for hitting some certain areas and then dead sticking it, which is great as well, and I do it there as well. But there are a couple other ways that I use it that might benefit you and make you better on the water and have a little more success. So one thing I wanted to talk about as well is like when you're dropping vertically, sometimes you can get a reaction by dropping it with a heavier weight, same bait as you've been using, but drop it with a heavier weight, and then that way it goes through fast and then come back up through them, and it'll cause a reaction bite actually. I just want to throw that in there. One of my buddies said, be sure to mention that. So there you go, Brandon. I was being sure to mention it. Now, so one thing I want to do is I want to start off by tying one on the way I do it. You know, I know a lot of people's going to tell you that's the wrong way. Some people's going to say that's how I do it. Some people's going to say here's another way of doing it. So I take a hook. I'm going to start in the point up. So I'm going to tie a Palomar knot. I like to make things simple. I think in fishing we often complicate things, and I think that sometimes we just need to simplify things. So, you know, I normally would wet it, but it was going through good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that line, that tag in, and I'm gonna bring it back down through there, back through the eye, and then I'm gonna pop that knot back through it. What that's gonna do is keep that line level. So that hook's now gonna have that point up. Now another thing I've been doing personally that, you know, is probably different than some, is instead of getting the weights with the pinch thing down there to make it easy for you, I've actually gone back to the ones with the loop in them. But what I do is I tie that really easy knot like you would for a crappie jig, where you just take it, double it, you make a loop, and then I'm going to bring that line, that weight, back through that loop, and I'm going to cinch it down. Now that thing's tied on there. And why I started doing that is when I'm using a heavier weight, I was losing a lot of weights that I really shouldn't have been losing. Like I'd lose them on a cast or just barely hung up, and that weight would just pop off. So I decided, and another thing is, like, let's say you're using a heavier weight on lighter line, like a 5-pound line, or even 7-pound. Sometimes you're making that longer cast with it. If you're trying to do a few different things other than just vertically, you would end up, that line is not big enough to really pinch that weight, and it pinching on that line wasn't really enough, so it just snapped that weight off. So I was losing a good bit of tungsten. I do prefer tungsten. I like quarters, I like 3/8, I like 1/2 ounce. This one right here is a 1/4 ounce on this one. And what I'm doing, I'm going to show you, you know, there is the all popular nose rig, and I'm just going to grab something that I've got laying here to do it with, which just so happens to be a Berkley Max Scent flatworm. And I'm going to show you that rig, because there's a lot of different ways to rig them. So in this one, you know, some people want to do it like that, nose rigged. Some people will actually take these flatworms and rig them weedless, which that's fine as long as you have the right hook. Right here is kind of the go-to way of doing it now, where you do it that way. So there's all kinds of baits you can throw on a drop shot. One thing that I want to talk about that I like doing, you know, like one of the times I was in Texas at Rayburn down there fun fishing, the Toyota series was actually there, and I was going in behind people throwing a drop shot, but I was kind of flipping it. You know, I was flipping it in around the cypress trees, and what I was doing was I was putting a mag hit worm on my drop shot rig, and I was rigging it with a owner jungle hook. I think it's what it's called, jungle finesse hook. So is like that right there. And I was doing only about a 6 to 10 inch leader, so I wanted it just off the bottom. And see, as you can see, this hook's kind of like just a flipping hook, but it's more of a finessier hook, so it's not as heavy. But it's got that nice little monofilament keeper on there that I like. So I was rigging one of those mag hit worms on there, just threading it on there and making it weedless. And you know, I know the guy just recently won a Toyota Series event on Sam Rayburn, in which he was doing a drop shot, but you know, he was using an EWG hook and using like a 10-inch straight tail worm on ledges. You can do that. Another thing I like is, like, let's say you're out there with your wife or a kid that don't know how to use a bait caster, and you're catching them on a Carolina rig. You can take a drop shot, rig it up on, like, and what I forgot to mention is when I was doing that, I was using this Enox Wizard by ALX. It's my shaky head rod, but I was also using like a 10 or 12 pound leader when I was flipping those cypress trees. You want to use something a little bit heavier. You know, a lot of times on my drop shots, I'm using the Enox Charmer by ALX, which is more of it's a medium light 611 rod, so it's not as stiff. It's got the, you know, it's more of a true drop shot rod to me. Like throw a net on it as well. Now, another thing I was going to talk about that I like to do on a drop shot is, and I'm not going to retie one. I don't know about y'all, but in the state of Alabama right now, if anybody ever talked about, you know, hot as hell, I'm going to do everything I can to not spend eternity where it's hot as hell, okay? So if that's it, I'm guessing that's what Alabama's like right now. Cast makes this right here. It's called the Apex. It's a 4.2. They make one. It's got the U-tail or the twirly tail, whatever you want to call it. And they also make a swim bait, so it's got like the boot tail on it. I like this because it takes very little movement to give it a ton of action. Now what I do is I take one of these screw locks like my owner makes right there. It's got the little loop on it, got the little pin, and I just insert it and I twist it all the way to the point that it's hidden in there. So see, you know, you can barely see anything. It's in there though. Oh, and by the way, these have a little rattle in them. Can't really hear it, but it's in there. I can hear it. And you take that and you put it on there just like that, and that right there is a deadly rig on a drop shot. I've caught fish from Lake Weiss, Gunnersville. I do really well on it at Chickamauga, actually. It's a great little rig. The drop shot is a lot more versatile than I think a lot of people view it as. You can do so many different things on it, like a hinted on substituting instead of a Carolina rig. You can also ledge fish with it, like I talked about the guy doing it at Rayburn. You know, you can put really about any hook on it, and you can tie it on there the same way I did that one, just as long as you always go through. I put the bend, I guess you'd say, up, and then take it through, tie a Palomar, bring it back through. That hook, no matter if it's an EWG, a true drop shot hook, is always going to stay where you want it at when you fix it up that way. Now, weight size, that's strictly up to you. One thing I like to do, and what helped win me money, and a 14th place finish at Smith Lake, I got to where the intake was at Smith Lake Dam, and when they started pulling water, I couldn't keep my Demiki rig vertical, so I could see them fish out there on my forward facing sonar. So I would cast out there, and that drop shot helped me fish it back slowly and kept it in that zone, because the fish were on the bottom, but they didn't want something coming through there fast. So that drop shot gave me the ability to kind of drag it along the bottom, kind of like I was talking about doing with a Carolina rig. It's just so versatile. You can put about any kind of bait on there. You know, I know Greg Hackney and them, they talk about, you know, doing basically the bait caster, putting a drop shot with very little leader, and they're flipping daggone creature baits. You know, I mean, you can do that. You can do it with a bait caster, you can do it spinning rods, whatever you want to do. It's just, you know, when the fishing gets tough, a drop shot's hard to beat. I'm going to do more videos coming up on like Ned rigs and all that stuff, because this is a time of year when all these lakes have all this pressure and it's hot. You know, it's summertime heat. A finesse rig that's going to get fish in the boat for you, and it catches big fish. I done a guide trip the other day, and we was out there throwing a Ned rig and caught a couple that around that 4 pound range. The weights have been low on Weiss lately, and I mean, the Ned rig caught fish that would have put us in the money if we were fishing a tournament. So that being said, you know, there's all kinds of, it's just really, it's limitless almost on the soft baits you can put on there. You can also, I told my buddy I wasn't going to talk about this, but he gave me permission to say it. One thing you can do, instead of using like a tungsten cylinder weight like I like, put a shaky head on there and put another worm on the bottom, and it gives them another option. Anyway, that just gives them another look. I appreciate y'all watching my videos. Please like and subscribe it. Subscribe to us. Share it. Please, we want to get this thing big. You know, I keep talking about Colt, and we want to make it big on all this stuff. Check out Talking Tackle in Chattanooga, River Legend Outfitters down in Mobile area, Central Alabama. Both of them great people. They'll take care of you. If they don't have it, they'll get it there for you quick. They'll help you out. That's all there is to it. They're great guys. Look them up. I've got plenty of dates available. Right here on the Coosa River, coming soon. I'm planning fall, being able to do, I'm finishing off my Coast Guard captain's license, so I'll be doing the Tennessee River guide trips, specializing in smallmouth. Going to do some crappie on the Tennessee River, crappie, sockeye, whatever you want to call it. Hit me up. I'd love to get out there on the water with you. Heck, if you want Colt to go with us, let me know. We can get him out there too. He does pretty well for a 5-year-old. He'll stay out there all day. Loves it. Well, just give me a shout. God bless.